This video will address the latitude, longitude of the RFX Smoke function right here. And it's found within the built-ins in the CP tab and the RFX. And the way that this works is that we actually need to go back into our global primitives. We need to drag our RFX Smoke down. And to set this up, I'm going to go drag some type of image. So I'm going to go into my server, find some type of image that carries an alpha channel. We'll just use this flare here. Once I drag it down onto there, I just need to go into the mapping and we'll change the mapping to vertex, and it kind of pins each one of these images to the particles. So we're going to go scale this up a little bit so that we'll be able to see a little bit better. We're going to go back into the built-ins, into the CP tab in our RFX folder, and we're going to drag this latitude, longitude onto our smoke. Immediately, once you do that, you can see how it kind of changes the whole arrangement of the particles within our scene. Two things to keep in mind here is that we now have two plugins. So we have a lot of settings within the RFX Smoke setting itself that we can adjust. And then we can actually go into our latitude and longitude setting. Now I just drug our RFX Smoke down. I'm keeping the default settings within the RFX Smoke. And I'm going to use the latitude, longitude to change the effects. So the first setting that we have within the RFX latitude, longitude plugin is the radius. By default, it's set to 100. If we increase this up to a number of, let's say, 500, it spreads that radius out a lot. We can take it down to a smaller number. You can see how it affects this particle. It doesn't spread it out so much. It keeps them more conjoined or bunched up together. If we reset this, it takes it back to what it was. There's also a spawn minimum, a spawn max. So you can use these numbers to set your minimum and your maximum numbers of how you want it to spawn. Spawn, if you're not familiar with that, refers to the birth rate basically of the number of particles coming out. So if we go back into the RFX Smoke setting, our spawn setting here, we can actually increase our X spawn of it, which would spread our particles out on the X scale. If we go back into the latitude, longitude, we can reset these. There's also a spawn min and a spawn max lat. So again, it's setting a minimum and maximum for our latitude. So when changing the spawn min and the spawn max, it's more just experimentation to know what you want. So we can type in different numbers. We'll switch the minimum lat to 50 and the maximum lat to 10. You can see how, again, it will affect the RFX Smoke. Down below, there's a spawn mid alt, which we can increase and or decrease into negative numbers, and a spawn max alt that we can increase or decrease down into the numbers. Each little adjustment that I make here is making subtle adjustments to the RFX Smoke as well. There's an orientation. It's on horizontal by default. We can also change it to radial. So every time we make a change here, it just may take a second to actually update the full particle motion of the RFX Smoke. There's also a trim radius too. You increase this and it will trim the radius of our latitude and longitude. There's also a trim radius. So if we increase this, it can kind of set a radius or a particular radius for our trim around the latitude and longitude setting. Again, a lot of these settings are going to be based on the RFX Smoke, what you have in here, and using the longitude, latitude. There's no right setting. It's all experimentation and kind of coming out with the setting or the look that you want.